So, what I noticed that he is signing is that he says like hello, and then he shows the Norwegian sign for what's up, and he explains that that's the sign for what's up. Hello, what's that? What does that mean? Well, that's the sign for what's up in Norwegian Sign Language. And then he explains that he's been here so far for 1 month in Oslo, Norway, and he's really starting to get accustomed to the area and the culture and etc. So far, I've been here for a month, and I've really become accustomed to the culture and the area in Oslo, Norway. So now he explains that he never forgot when he first arrived in Norway, and he went into a grocery store and he just was so overwhelmed by the fact that none of the manufacturers or labels were any of the labels or manufacturers that he knew, because what he knew in America, he was very accustomed to it, able to go around and just know exactly what this label meant or what that label meant. And he said there were a few of the same make manufacturers and labels that were the same. And he also said it was also tough because it was in Norwegian. I'll never forget that first week after I landed here in Norway, going into the grocery store and being overwhelmed by the amount of labels and manufacturers that I had no idea of. They were so different from what I was accustomed to in America. Back home in America, I was able to walk into any store and know exactly what each label and each manufacturer was. Also, what was even more tough was the fact that all of it was written in Norwegian. Then he makes a comment about the fact that he needs to get a haircut because his hair was bothering him, so he brushes it out of his face. And he explains how when he was in the grocery store, he had to use Google Translate to translate Norwegian to English to figure out what everything was saying. And all the Norwegian people, or inhabitants of Norway, would look at him very strangely, like, what is this guy doing? He had to do that a lot to help him to understand what was being said on all the different products. Sorry, my hair is really bothering me. I know I need to get a haircut soon. I remember going into the stores and having to use Google Translate to go from Norwegian to English all the time because I didn't understand a lick of Norwegian. All the while, people were staring at me, wondering, like, what are you doing? Then he talks about how, as the weeks went by, he got more accustomed to all the different brands and labels in Norway, and eventually was able to go into the store and buy food or different items that he needed, and everything was okay. And now he really, really enjoys his time here. So, as weeks and weeks went by, I became more accustomed and used to all the different labels and products and brands here in Norway, that I was able to just walk in and out of stores buying whatever I needed, for example, food. And he mentions that Norway is known for having a lot of seafood, and he lists out a bunch of different kinds like shrimp and lobster, and different things like that. And he also mentions this is due to the fact that it's located on the sea, and that's why they are so rich in seafood. And then, so he mentions that he really grew accustomed to eating a lot of seafood. And then he discussed that he has been here for 1 month working in a show, a theater show, and and he's been working on it for about 3 or so weeks. One of the staples of foods in Norway is seafood, and that is due to the fact that Norway is by the sea. And I grew accustomed to eating a lot of seafood in Norway. Anyways, so I've been here for 1 month working on a theatrical production. I've been working on it for weeks and weeks and weeks. So then he mentions that the first 2 weeks or so was really an awkward experience for him because all the other actors in the show were so skilled. You know, they grew up in Norway, they spoke Norwegian Sign Language fluently, and he didn't really know a lot of it at that time. So it was really a challenge for him because over in America, when he was in a show or a play or whatever, he was able to really memorize the lines quickly and work more on the development and really grow his character. I'll never forget those first 2 weeks when I got together with the group of actors I would be working with, and they were all so skilled and so fluent in Norwegian Sign Language because of their experiences and due to the fact that they grew up in Norway. I, on the other hand, didn't really know much of it, so it was much more of a challenge learning my lines and trying to develop my character because over back where I'm from, America, it was easy. I could just go in, learn my lines, and work more on the development and growth of my character. He mentions that because he could read English and ASL, he could read English and he could sign in American Sign Language, it was easier to, become that character and just sign, do his signing, and that was good. He also mentioned that they also, of course, had ASL coaches, people that were there to really give feedback and make sure all the signing and everything that was put on into the product of what the character was saying was correct and good and was clear and big enough maybe for the audience to see. And then he said, but here over in Norway, he's had to learn a new language plus Norwegian Sign Language. So that development of the character and trying to become the character has been really slow because he's had to learn the signs and it's been a very slow process. You know, because I could read English and I knew American Sign Language, it's much more easier for me to become a character and just become that character in sign. And of course, we had ASL coaches that were there to make sure our signing was correct or more clear or that the audience might understand what we are saying better, those types of things. But over here in Norway, it's been much more of a challenge for me because I don't know Norwegian and I also have to learn Norwegian Sign Language on top of that. So I'm signing kind of awkwardly right now until I have a better grasp of it. It's a challenge. And then he mentions that he really enjoys going to practice every day because the actors are very visual. They use a lot of facial expression, show the expression with their face, and they're just so good at their craft. And he also mentioned how that makes it such a challenge for him because he's still learning Norwegian Sign Language, so it's so hard for him to match up to their level of skill. I really love going to practice every day with all of these skilled actors and actresses because of how visual and how expressive they are in the face, in the body language. It also presents me with a challenge myself because I am new to their language and I am struggling to work my way up to their caliber of skill. So he said he'll never forget when they first met all the directors and the assistants and the cast and everything. He also mentioned how he's been there for a month, so he's seen a lot of practice, had a lot of practice, and he's seen so much growth in himself. And every day after the practice, he likes to meet one on one with the director. I can never forget that first week meeting with the director and the assistants and everybody just signing and being all together. Now, after 1 month, I've seen a lot of growth because I've had so much practice. After the rehearsals, I like to meet with the director one on one to discuss different things relating to my performance. Now, the director, he mentions, will sort of crack the whip with me and give me a lot of criticism and make sure I will improve in my signing and how I'm acting the character. And I've been seeing a lot of people tell me, like, wow, you're really improving so much. It's really fantastic. when I meet with the director will give me a lot of criticism as well to help me improve how I'm performing the character as well as in my signing. And I've been seeing a lot of people lately telling me, wow, your signing and your acting skills, everything is really improving so greatly. He also mentions how he sees a lot of growth in himself as well. He sees it in himself, not just by the comments that people are making. And he said it's not finishing. He's not letting it stop there. While people are telling me that I'm making a lot of progress, I can see it in myself. I look inside myself and I also see that growth as well. And it's not stopping there. He said that, well, he mentioned how it's a really, really long process until it's all perfect. And he also says how he's so happy to be in the show with all the directors and the people backstage and the actors and actresses. He's just so thrilled to be in this performance. I really have a long way to go. And I'm so thankful to be working with such a wonderful director and people backstage and the actors and actresses. It's a really exciting experience. Then he remembers a story that he forgot to mention earlier about the first day they all got together. All the actors were introducing themselves, saying, hello, my name is such and such. And then he, hi, my name is Daniel. I'm really ready to become the character. Then suddenly he noticed that there was a guy laughing and he was like, what? It's so funny. And I had to explain to him that in Norwegian Sign Language, what he signed was condom. Oh, I just remembered. When the first day we all got together, I remember we were all introducing ourselves, our names, and when it got to my turn, I was so excited. Hello, my name is Daniel Durant. This is how I signed my name. I'm really ready to become the character. And then I noticed one of the other actors was laughing at me, really laughing, and I didn't know why. This sign that I just used in American Sign Language is how we show that we are becoming the character or becoming that person that we are portraying. But then I found out in Norwegian Sign Language, that's the sign for condom. I just couldn't believe I had signed that, and they were all staring at me. Such an embarrassing moment. Another sign that I would constantly see the director signing in Norwegian Sign Language, it was one that went to the forehead, and it was the American Sign Language sign for dumb, which is what he's signing, and it confused him, but in Norwegian Sign Language, it was the sign for memorize. Woo. one sign I saw the director sign many times. It looked like the American Sign Language sign for dumb, but I later found out it was the sign for memorize. It was really confusing to me as an American who knew that sign for dumb. Then he goes to talk about how in American Sign Language, numbers like 10, 11 are commonly signed the way he produces them. And then he compared that to Norwegian Sign Language, where they were signed more like the way he was showing it. And that really just threw him off, how he just translate back and remember this is 11, that's 10, and then two different languages. It's really fascinating because in Norwegian Sign Language, I mean, it's really fascinating because in American Sign Language, we typically sign 10 the way I'm producing these numbers, 10, 11. Those are the ways we sign those numbers. While in Norwegian Sign Language, the way I'm showing you is how they sign them. And that really just confused me at first. I had to constantly translate, try to remember, this is 11, that's 12, this is 10. Oh, it's just really fascinating seeing the differences between American Sign Language and Norwegian Sign Language. And then he mentions that it's really fascinating seeing the differences between Norwegian Sign Language and American Sign Language, and he shows another sign that's one of his favorites. It kind of looks like the surfer sign that they do in Hawaii, like, yeah, man, and, but it means yes, and he just loves that sign. It's really interesting looking at the differences and similarities between American Sign Language and Norwegian Sign Language. For example, they have one sign that looks like, in Hawaii, those surfers, they do that, boogie kind of sign, but it means yes. It's like, kind of like, yes. Then he also mentions another difference, like showing the American Sign Language sign for baby, and then he shows the sign for baby in Norwegian Sign Language, and he compares it to the kicking of the legs and the arms. And another sign in Norwegian Sign Language that I love, that's much different from the American Sign Language for baby. Here, I am signing the word baby, and now I'm signing it Norwegian Sign Language, and I think the Norwegian sign is so cute because it reminds me of the babies kicking their legs around. Such an enjoyable sign. Well, I've really been enjoying my 4 weeks here. Take care. Have a good day.